He had $113 million sitting on the table, guaranteed, already negotiated. All he had to do was sign his name, and the money was his. And he walked away from it, not because he had to, not because anyone forced his hand, not because there was a bigger offer waiting somewhere else. Jalen Brunson looked at $113 million, money that most people will never see a fraction of in 10 lifetimes. And he said no, on purpose, with a plan. And about 2 years later, he stood at center court in San Antonio, holding the Bill Russell Trophy, a New York Knicks championship cap pulled low over his eyes, as finals MVP of the first Knicks team to win a title in 53 years. So here's the question we're unpacking today. Why would a man give away $113 million? And how did that single decision, that one piece of financial discipline that almost no athlete in history has ever been willing to make, turn into the most valuable to trade of his entire career? Because this isn't a story about basketball. Not really. This is a story about leverage, sacrifice, and the difference between getting paid and getting everything. Stick with me, because by the end of this, you're going to understand money in a way that most professional athletes never will. Let's get something straight about who we're actually talking about. Because if you only know the headlines, you know a 6'1" point guard who just dropped 45 points to close out a championship. But the Jalen Brunson story starts long before that. It starts in a household where the business of basketball was the dinner table conversation. His father, Rick Brunson, played 9 seasons in the NBA. 9 seasons across 8 different teams, almost all of it on unguaranteed one-year contracts. Career earnings, just over $4.6 million, spread across nearly a decade of never knowing when the phone was going to ring with bad news, never knowing when a team was going to cut him loose while his family stayed planted on the East Coast, and he was off somewhere else in the country, fighting to keep a roster spot. Jalen watched that. He absorbed it. He understood, from the inside out, what financial insecurity feels like in a profession where your value can evaporate overnight, and that upbringing built something in him that you cannot teach. A relationship with money that was never about the flash. It was about the structure. So when Jalen Brunson got his shot, he didn't just want to get paid. He wanted to build something that couldn't be taken away. And that distinction, that one mental shift, is the entire foundation of this story. Now rewind to 2022. Brunson is a restricted free agent coming off a solid run with the Dallas Mavericks. Dallas had him. They had every chance to lock him up early, and they hesitated. They lowballed. They treated a rising star like a role player. And the New York Knicks, watching all of this, pounced. They handed Brunson a 4-year contract worth $104 million, and the entire league laughed. Analysts called it a massive overpay. They said New York had panicked. They said, you do not give 9 figures to a 6'1" guard who was a second-round caliber talent coming out of college. The skepticism was loud, and it was everywhere. And then Brunson went out and made every single critic eat their words. 24 points a game in his first season. Then an all-star selection. Then another. Then another. He did not just justify the contract. He outgrew it almost immediately. Within 2 years, Jalen Brunson was producing like a top-tier superstar while being paid like a very good starter. And that gap, that distance between what he was earning and what he was actually worth on the open market, is where this story turns into something extraordinary. Because here's how NBA contracts work, and this is the part you need to understand. In the summer of 2024, Brunson became eligible for what is called a designated veteran extension. The maximum money. The number was staggering. He could have signed a deal that, over its full length, would have paid him roughly $156 million. Instead, Brunson signed an extension worth around $156 million in a different structure. But the key detail is this. He could have waited one more year and signed for $113 million, more than what he actually took. That is not a typo. By signing early and by signing for less, Jalen Brunson left as much as $113 million on the bargaining table. Why does that matter? Why would a franchise player voluntarily take less? One word: flexibility. The NBA operates under a salary cap. Every team has a fixed amount of money they are allowed to spend on players. When your best player eats up a giant slice of that cap, you have less room to build a roster around him. Less room to bring in the talent that actually wins championships. Brunson understood the math better than his own front office could have hoped. He knew that if he took the maximum, the Knicks would be financially handcuffed. They would not be able to keep the supporting cast together. They would be forced into impossible choices. So he made the choice for them. He took less, deliberately, so that the team could spend more on everyone else. He traded personal millions for collective firepower. Now let me put that in perspective, because the wealth mechanics here are everything. Most athletes spend their entire careers chasing the biggest possible number. The contract is the scoreboard. The contract is the validation. The contract is how they measure their worth against every other player in the league. And that mindset, that hunger for the maximum, has quietly destroyed more championship windows than any injury ever has. Because when every star demands every dollar, the cap math becomes impossible, and the team around them slowly hollows out. Brunson rejected that entire framework. He looked at $113 million and he saw something most players never see. He saw it as an investment in winning, an investment in a ring that no contract can buy. And if you've ever wondered what separates the people who get rich from the people who build something that lasts, pause right here, because this is it. This is the lesson. Rich is a salary. Wealth is leverage. And the rarest move in all of professional sports is a superstar who understands the difference and is disciplined enough to act on it. If this breakdown is already shifting how you think about money and sacrifice, do me a favor and hit that subscribe button and consider joining the channel membership, because this is exactly the kind of wealth psychology we break down here every single week. Now let's talk about what that $113 million gamble actually bought. Leon Rose, the Knicks team president, took the room that Brunson created and he went to work. And this is where Brunson's sacrifice stops being theoretical and starts becoming a championship roster, piece by piece. The cap flexibility allowed New York to make moves they otherwise never could have afforded. They brought in Mikal Bridges, a long elite two-way wing, in a blockbuster trade. They acquired Karl Anthony Towns, a former #1 scoring big man from Minnesota. They added Josh Hart. They surrounded their disciplined point guard with exactly the kind of talent that turns a good team into a title contender. And every single one of those acquisitions was made possible, in part, by the breathing room that Brunson handed the franchise when he signed for less than his maximum. Think about what that means. Brunson didn't just hope his sacrifice would pay off. He actively engineered the conditions for his own championship. He looked down the road, saw what the team needed, and removed the financial obstacle himself. That is not the move of a basketball player. That is the move of a business owner. He treated his own contract like a line item on a balance sheet, optimizing not for his personal take-home, but for the success of the entire enterprise. And the enterprise, it turns out, was the New York Knicks. The 2026 playoff run was a coronation. New York tore through the Eastern Conference, sweeping Cleveland in the conference finals, where Brunson was named Series MVP unanimously. 11 straight wins on the road to the finals. And then came San Antonio, and a young, terrifyingly talented Spurs team built around the 7'4" phenomenon, Victor Wembanyama. On paper, the Spurs had the size. They had the future. They had the defensive monster in the middle, designed specifically to erase a player exactly like Jalen Brunson. And it didn't matter. Because in the finals, Brunson did something that bordered on the impossible. He averaged over 32 points a game in the series. In Game 4, the Knicks were down by 29 points. 29. A deficit that statistically, teams almost never come back from on the championship stage. And New York clawed all the way back to win it, capping the largest comeback in NBA Finals history. Then came Game 5, the closeout. Brunson scored 45 points. 45, with 13 of them coming in a row late in the fourth quarter, while his teammates struggled and dealt with foul trouble around him. The Spurs designed their entire defense to stop him, even assigning their 7'4" center to the task. And Brunson broke the code anyway. Those 45 points matched Michael Jordan for the most ever scored in a title-clinching road game. The vote for Finals MVP was unanimous. All 11 voters. Not a single dissent. And here is the detail that ties this whole thing together. The part that turns a basketball story into a generational wealth lesson. When that final buzzer sounded, the first person Jalen Brunson went to find was his father, Rick Brunson, the man who spent 9 years on unguaranteed contracts, never winning a championship, navigating the brutal insecurity of a league that could cut him at any moment. The father who lived the pressure, so the son could understand the value of building something stable. They embraced at center court. A man who once played for a paycheck he was never sure he'd keep, holding a son who gave away $113 million and won everything in return. So let's do the real math here, because this is the part that everyone misses. Did Jalen Brunson actually lose $113 million? On paper, in that single transaction, yes. But that's the thinking of someone who measures wealth one contract at a time. Let's look at the full picture instead. A championship transforms a player's entire financial universe. A Finals MVP is no longer just an athlete. He is a brand. His marketability explodes. His endorsement value multiplies. His leverage in every future negotiation, every business venture, every off-court deal increases exponentially. The ring he just won will generate income streams for the rest of his life and beyond, in ways that a slightly larger contract never could. Championship players sign sneaker deals, launch businesses, command appearance fees, and build legacies that compound for decades. Brunson didn't give away $113 million. He spent it. He spent it on the single most valuable asset available to a professional athlete, a title, and in doing so, he positioned himself to earn that money back many times over through a career and a brand that is now built on the foundation of being a champion. He understood something that the salary chasers never will. The biggest number on the contract is not the same thing as the biggest return on your career. And there's one more layer to this, because the discipline didn't end when the trophy was lifted. Brunson now sits in the most powerful position a professional athlete can occupy. He's a proven champion, a Finals MVP, and a player who has already demonstrated to the entire league that he will sacrifice for winning. That reputation is its own form of currency. It attracts talent. Other players want to come play with a guy like that. It strengthens his standing inside the organization because front offices build around players who put the team first. And it sets up every future contract negotiation from a position of overwhelming strength, because now the Knicks aren't just paying for production. They're paying for a culture, a winner, the face of a franchise that ended a 53-year drought. The $113 million he left behind didn't disappear. It transformed into something far more valuable than cash. it became an influence. This is the part of the story I want you to really sit with. We live in a culture that worships the maximum, the biggest contract, the richest deal, the largest number you can possibly extract from any situation. And we celebrate that as success. But the people who actually build something lasting, the ones who win in the deepest sense, they understand a different equation entirely. They understand that sometimes the smartest financial move looks on the surface like the dumbest one. That taking less in the short term can be the most aggressive long-term play there is. That leverage and patience and a willingness to sacrifice today can buy you something that no amount of immediate cash ever could. Jalen Brunson is 6'1" in the League of Giants. He was doubted at every single stage of his career. Doubted coming out of college. Doubted when he signed in New York. Doubted right up until the moment he hung 45 on a 7'4" defensive nightmare to win a championship. And the thing that separated him, more than the jump shot, more than the footwork, more than the clutch gene, was a mind that understood value better than the people negotiating against him. He played the long game while everyone else was counting the short money. And he won everything. That is the blueprint, not the points, not the trophy, the decision. The willingness to look at $113 million and recognize that there was something on the other side of that sacrifice worth far more. Most people, given that same choice, take the cash every time. They take the guaranteed money, the safe number, the validation, and they spend the rest of their careers wondering why the thing they really wanted always stayed just out of reach. Brunson did the opposite. He bet on himself, he bet on his team, and he bet on the idea that winning is the most valuable currency there is. And the bet paid off in the most spectacular way imaginable. I want to know what you think about this one. Was Jalen Brunson's decision the smartest financial move in modern sports history? Or did he get lucky that it worked out? And would you have taken the $113 million without a second thought? Drop your honest answer in the comments below, because I genuinely want to hear how you would have played it. Hit that like button if this changed the way you think about money and sacrifice. And if you are not subscribed yet, fix that right now, because this is where we break down the real wealth psychology, the deal structures, and the blueprints behind the most powerful stories in sports and business. We'll see you in the next one.